SP 29 through 32. We have Eury Perez, Bobby Miller, Grayson Rodriguez, and Tanner Bibee. Now, the ADP on these guys is very interesting because Eury Perez currently the SP 19 off the board. Grayson Rodriguez the SP 20, so much higher than where Scott has them ranked. I think people are maybe willing to take on that risk for very high upside pitchers. Bobby Miller, the SP 23 off the board. And then Tanner Bibee, you got to drop down a little bit. He's currently the 33rd starting pitcher off the board. So kind of find that interesting that he's not kind of lumped in with this group. Maybe just doesn't have that same perceived upside as some of these names. Paul, we'll start with you. Who is your favorite from this group? Eury Perez, Bobby Miller, Grayson Rodriguez, and Tanner Bibee.
It's definitely Bobby Miller for me. I see true full-on ace upside that while it might not fully develop this year, I'm willing to take that shot that it does and then just kind of, see where he goes. I think he's kind of their next Walker Buehler. Obviously, let's hope he doesn't get hurt like Buehler, although he probably will because kind of every pitcher does. But I really do love Bobby Miller. Let's just hope he doesn't get hurt this year. Pick 75 is obviously expensive, but he has everything. And so I think as a potential frontliner, he's the guy I want. He's on a great team as well. So is Grayson Rodriguez. And Eury Perez is on a decent team. Bobby's on a decent team, but obviously Miller's on the best of the bunch. And while we can't predict wins, you still know that the best chance at them is going to be on the best team. So I like Bobby Miller quite a bit, and I'm willing to pay the premium.
Yeah, when I started diving into Bobby Miller, there was just so much to like about him. He got better in the second half, and it kind of changed with a pitch mix change that he had where he dropped the slider usage and raised the curveball. I mean, the curveball and the changeup look like they are like potential elite pitches for him. Obviously throws extremely hard. Bobby Miller 5th in Stuff Plus, according to Eno Saris's metric there. So I do agree, man. There is lots to like about Bobby Miller. Scott, does it surprise you that the market is so much higher on guys like Eury Perez? Again, he's SP 19 in ADP. Grayson Rodriguez, SP 20. I know that some people want that upside, but there's still a lot of people like Justin who values that floor. And if we're being honest, Eury Perez and Grayson Rodriguez might not have that floor.
Well, and selling out for upside at starting pitchers, it's kind of my whole thing this year, so that the market could be higher on Eury Perez than I am. It kind of makes me wonder who they're overlooking. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to sit down with it and figure it out. Maybe Joe Musgrove because he's coming back from a shoulder injury, but that's just one. That's not all the names that Eury Perez is ahead of in the ADP. I do. So it's more Grayson Rodriguez, I guess, that surprises me. He's going that early because Eury Perez, you at least see the big strikeout upside. While Grayson Rodriguez definitely looked a lot better when he came back from the minors, but a lot of it had to do with strike throwing. And it's not like the whiff rate was better. The whiff rate showed the potential for him to become a strikeout pitcher, but he wasn't actually getting a lot of strikeouts. And that's why I have Bobby Miller ahead of Grayson Rodriguez. So I have Eury Perez of this group of 4 sophomores. I have Eury Perez number 1 because I see clearly the biggest strikeout potential there. But I also favor Miller over Rodriguez, at least, because of I don't think between the two, I don't think there is a clear standout in terms of strikeout upside. And Miller, that last month of the season, he was going 6-7 innings with consistency. He had a 14% swinging strike rate in the final month. So that's elite. He has the 5-pitch arsenal, a guy who throws that hard. I kind of expected Bobby Miller to be somebody who comes up and is throwing his fastball 60% of the time at first, because that's just what young kids who throw hard tend to do. But he was mixing in this 5-pitch arsenal, and you really saw him take off in September. So I'm with Paul, at least on the idea that Bobby Miller, I prefer him to Grayson Rodriguez. But Eury Perez, I think if you are going to distinguish one from this quartet, I think he would be the one to do because of the strikeout upside.
I'm probably going to have those two close to back-to-back, Miller and Perez. So I want to co-sign the Eury love. I think maybe the team context is going to be the little bit of a tiebreaker there, because I do believe that Bobby Miller can get into the strikeouts to where he's pushing a 30% rate, a la Perez, who had a 29% mark in his 91 innings. But yeah, I do believe that they are the class of that quartet there. And I do think Bibee's interesting as kind of the cheaper one, but I'll let Justin jump in here on his thoughts at the top end there.
I just want to get in real quick. Eury Perez is swinging strike rate. I gave Bobby Miller in September 14%. Eury Perez, his whole time in the majors, 15.7%.
That's disgusting. He was 19, 20 last year. Or 20, excuse me, 20 all year, but still, age 20 season, that's bananas.
The guy isn't even legal to drink until April, so
I know.
that on Eury Perez. Justin, your favorite from this group, and maybe why Tanner Bibee is so much lower than the rest of these guys?
I think people look at Bibee as a guy that doesn't have the upside of these other guys, right? Like, Bibee's not going to turn into an SP1 this year. He's not going to have, like, this is like the McClanahan tier from a few years ago, right? Where, like, I think it was like McClanahan, Manoah, and all these guys were going just around pick 100. And then guys just jumped up, right? Had these massive breakouts, and they were
Trevor
SP1s.
Rogers.
Yeah, exactly.
He was one of them.
Trev.
Yeah.
And so I think people are looking at this group as like, oh, some of these some of the guys in this group are going to be league winners. Who are they? And no one's going to pick Bibee because he doesn't have the strikeout rate that these other guys have. He's not on a team that I think is going to be extremely competitive. I think they're going, they'll be competitive, but they're not going to be like a powerhouse team in the way that we definitely see the Dodgers as, and we could see maybe like the Orioles potentially as, coming off of the season they just had. But again, we go back to what I said earlier. Like, I think, while I love all four of these guys, I would draft all four of these guys, no problem. The guy that's going to end up on more of my teams than not, and already has, as I have 3 drafts in the books, and I believe I have Tanner Bibee already on 2 of them, is Bibee. Like, he does everything you want. I think he's the most polished of all 4 of these guys. He's got a full arsenal. He doesn't walk guys. He doesn't give up home runs. He's on a team that is going to win games. Maybe not as many as the Dodgers. Maybe it's not as many as the Orioles, but the Guardians are going to win games in the Central because the Central's awful. So Bibee's the guy that I'm going to end up with the most. I agree with Scott and Paul that if all things being equal, I really, really love Bobby Miller. I do see a big step. I also love Eury Perez. Like, I think, and Eury Perez and Bobby Miller both ended up on teams for me. I have no problem. This is like a little mini glob. I have no problem drafting 2 or 3 of these guys if I can.